Hi everyone, and welcome to the first Stranded live stream. I haven't exactly figured out what to call this, if it's live stream podcast, if it's... I named it interactive during the announcements. I called it an interactive live streamed podcast. And I'm obviously doing this for the first time. There's been tons of technical things to figure out. And it's been fun. It's been interesting. I always enjoy figuring out new things. But bear with me and us. I guess these first few episodes, as we figure out stuff. I'm already, when doing dry runs, I've noticed things that could be made much smoother. I'm sure there are people watching now that have live streamed before, and maybe you have some advice that you can offer. So I prepared a lot of technical stuff. I haven't prepared very much in terms of what I'm going to talk about. And I mean, many of us are just staring at the world in disbelief right now, and we're literally or figuratively stranded somewhere. I've had the idea of live streaming with some recurrence for a long time, and I guess this finally gave me the reason to get myself in gear and work this out and get things started. And I don't have anything profound to say in terms of a rescue metaphor or anything, and that's not the purpose of what we're doing here. But rather, I'm seeing this as an extension of our Spark community, which you may or may not be aware of, but we're fortunate enough to have Isaac Stolzer Gary holding in a Skype window, and he will tell us a little bit more about that. But I really hope that we can make this something, a creative forum where we can interact with each other, where I can learn more from you, the community, what you're expecting from us, and I can provide some insights into what we're doing. But I think more importantly, as with the Spark community, we also want to offer this as a platform for you to interact with other community members. And we like to think of all of us as an extended family, and just look out for each other. And I hope it'll be fun. And we want to also include you in these live streams. I realized that there's quite a lag in the stream. So I might have been hoping to interact more with you with the chat window, but the technology may not exactly be with us to that extent, but we'll see, and we'll figure things out over time, I hope. But I wanted to switch over briefly and show you kind of some of the things that we're thinking of in terms of the format of this live stream. Not entirely sure how often to run it, if we're doing it on a whim or if we're doing it weekly, but since we do want to make it interactive, we want to involve our artists, we want to involve every one of you in the community, I think we're going to have to be flexible and do this at different times and different days of the week. Sometimes working better for Asia, sometimes working better for Europe, sometimes for the US. But the nice thing is that all of these live streams will be archived on our YouTube channel. So you can revisit them, you can rewatch them, you can find them anytime you like. But some of the things that are listed here, they're just ideas from me. Find a way for you to nominate yourself as an interviewer. Nominate an artist that you would like to interview. Tell us why you should interview this person, or ask to interview me. By all means, get 15 minutes here on the stream, and do that. Another idea is I've talked to a lot of our artists already. They're really eager to get on and also interact with you. And one format that we've been thinking of is offer up a free Skype lesson, which will be on us. So we'll pay the artist for it, and you will get a free lesson, and everyone else will be watching. So I guess there's a chance to also interact and shape the what this lesson deals with, but it's for whoever wins this lesson. Another one, obviously, we can have some recurring segment where I explain something about the guitars and or tackle some specific technical issue. I can share my screen and actually do something, design something, talk you through the process if that's interesting. It's something that's been requested. Isaac will join us in a few minutes and tell you more about Spark, and we have recurring bi-weekly or monthly challenges where winners are awarded Flint, and we'd also like to share the Spark highlights in this live stream. And in theory, we could lift the lid on some product features that I'm considering, involve you in the decision making, as long as you promise to not think of everything as it's going to happen. But hopefully it can be a rewarding and fun experience in any way. So I'm going to, with that, just say the email address that we're monitoring for this live stream is stranded at strandbergguitars.com. It'll appear on multiple screens going forward. So yeah, just don't forget it. Feel free to reach out there with more ideas that you might have. With that, I think I'm going to let Isaac in and put my headphones on so you hear us only once.
Hello!
Hey, Isaac.
Hey! How's it going, Ola?
Not too bad. Pretty good.
Good morning,
actually.
Good evening.
We're running, finally, which feels good. So Isaac, we've known each other for quite a long time. I think I met you first through Trey at Gear Gods.
Yes.
Several years ago, probably at NAMM, right?
I think so. I know for me, Strandberg was always it was like the first guitar that I saw that I just wanted it in my life, and I was like, what is that? I'd never seen a headless guitar before, and I remember going to NAMM for the first time. I guess it was probably 4 or 5 years ago now, and actually I had ordered let me pull it up. This guy, this was the custom from the Swedish custom shop. This is the closest thing I have to a child. This is my baby. Um, but I had never played one before, and I remember playing the first one that I ever picked up was at NAMM with Trey. I got to go, via Gear Gods, which I'll get into in a second. But the first Stremmer that I ever touched was it was an 8 string True Temperament multi-scale model, and it was just like just this big hairy thing. And at that level, I'm like I don't know if I'm gonna actually if this is gonna be my cup of tea. And I loved even just that crazy version of a lot of the more kind of held back versions, with the wiggly frets and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, this is the end game. This is amazing. But I started working for a company called Gear Gods, which actually repping right here. What feels like ages ago, and I work for them now. That's my full-time job. Trey is actually my roommate. And for those of you who aren't familiar, Gear Gods is a YouTube channel and a website primarily focused on the metal community, and we do gear reviews. That's kind of our main thing. Interviews with artists, tutorials, songwriting lessons, all kinds of stuff. From serious to lighthearted and kind of everything in between. But I'm the senior editor for that website. Oh, I remember meeting you for the first time, and I was so damn nervous. I'm like, this is the guy. This is Mr. Stroud. I'm like, oh, this is like meeting God. This is crazy. And so I guess, yeah, it was a long time ago, but yeah, here we are now. And I want to thank you first and foremost for having me on the stream, talk about myself and Spark, and I'm really excited on this format. I think this is just what a lot of people need right now, and I know it's going to be a big hit, and I'm sure you have already a ton of questions to go through, but yeah, this is really something special here. So
yeah, I think it'll be fun. Yeah, tell us a little bit about Spark.
Yes, so for those of you who aren't familiar, Strandberg has a online community. It mostly lives on Facebook, but there's an Instagram page as well. It's called Spark, Strandberg Spark. I'm the chairman of the Spark program, and what Spark is, it's sort of an online content engine, and the main theme throughout all of it is reinforcing creativity and sort of helping kindle each other's creative spark. And that's kind of where the name comes from. It's what sparks your creativity, what sparks your drive, what sparks your passion to like make things.
And it's not limited to guitars, right?
It is not limited to guitars. No, that's a very important
the challenges
feature.
are all usually about creativity, period. Sometimes closer
100%.
to guitar, or geared towards guitar, but certainly open to everyone. And obviously you don't have to be a Strandberg owner by any means.
Yes, yeah, and that's a big question we get a lot is like, oh, do I have to own a Strandberg to be a part of this group?
Yeah.
Absolutely not. It's for anyone who just has the desire to make things and be part of that kind of community. And the way it works is that basically every month now we announce 2 topics, and topics can range from we try to keep them a good mix of broad and narrow kind of, but there are two options. So for example, this past month we had one of our topics was called Strandberg Stealth, which was based off of the now postponed James Bond movie that was coming out. There was a Billie Eilish theme song that was for the new James Bond movie, pretty current, was getting a lot of attention. So I thought maybe let's try to work this into the Spark program. So one of them was basically like, and it's really sort of like we give you the seed and you kind of run with it and you kind of take it in whatever direction you want to go with it. So the seed in that case was Strandberg Stealth, like the stealthy lightweight design of a Strandberg, kind of assassin James Bond style. What does that bring up in your mind? What can you make with that? And then the other option was a topic that I was really excited for, which was called To Go Boldly Where No Strandberg Has Gone Before. And it was sort of like showcase your Strandberg or a Strandberg guitar in some wild environment. It could be on the moon, it could be in the bottom of the ocean, it could be in the jungle. I mean, really the sky's the limit. And but so people make, some of the stuff our people in this community come up with it's incredible. It's from I'm a musician, I'm a guitarist, so my head immediately kind of goes to more of the traditional, like what kind of song can I make with this, what kind of music can I produce with this. People make videos, they make pictures, Photoshop, paintings, drawings, time-lapse animation. Like it's anything that you can make that embodies the topic is fair game. And so that's kind of the first part of Spark. And then at the end of every month, myself and the group that we have, we vote on the topics that were submitted that month. Anyone could submit, and again, you don't have to own a Strandberg or anything. But the winners will receive a currency called Flint, which is basically credit that you can use and save up to get discount on a Strandberg guitar, accessories on the Strandberg store, and it's a nice reward for taking the time to do this thing, and it's a really nice combination of the whole goal is to just really support creativity and support each other, and no judgment. It's not a competition, but there are some nice perks if you really want to spend some time with it. And we used to do it every 2 weeks, and now we've gone to a month in between topics, which is quite nice because it gives people, I think, a lot more time to really marinate on ideas and spend some time with them. And I know for me, I try to participate as often as I can. I try to go every round, and it's if nothing else, it's a really nice way to just keep the juices flowing. I think a lot of people, aren't full-time musicians, they're not full-time artists, and this is a really nice outlet for them to really flex those creative muscles and just make something that they didn't really know they could make. And I know personally, like, some of my favorite things that I've made through the program just for myself were the ones that I really had to like think about the topic, and nothing really came. Like, say the James Bond topic was announced, and I couldn't really think of anything right away, and I would spend some time on it, and it really made me have to dig and be like, what would I make that represents this, that I feel represents me as an artist or whatever. And those were the ones that I end up being the most proud of, because I'm like, and
Yeah.
you feel like the sense of accomplishment, you feel the sense of community, and the bottom line is the whole community is just fantastic. Everyone is there to support each other. We have some insanely talented people who I don't know how they come up with half the ideas they do.
Mhm.
It's really remarkable.
Yeah.
And now is really one of the best times to join the program. It's on Facebook. Just hit the request approval, and then you'll get put into the group, no problem. And with our current state of affairs right now, a lot of people are home. A lot of people are working from home. They might feel isolated. They might feel stranded, and this is a really good place to where you can still feel a sense of community and keep the juices flowing, keep the creative potential going for just new projects and new ideas, and if nothing else, just to talk with people about music and art and everything in between. So that's kind of my spiel on Spark. I highly recommend taking a look at it. Again, you don't have to be a musician. You don't have to be there's no barrier to entry. Just come on in,
Yeah.
just be excited, and just be willing to try new stuff. And the last thing I'll say too is Spark's been going now for, I think we're on our third year, which is pretty
Mhm.
wild. And to see some of the people who participate every single time, every single round, and to see the progression of people who, I'm like, my first Spark topics, my first submissions to my current stuff, there's a world of difference. And to see the progression of people, it's like, wow, people are really just excited to like make things and just be a part of it, and get creative feedback. And to see people grow throughout it has just really been an absolute joy to see. So again, I highly
Yeah.
recommend taking a look at it now more than ever. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's Spark.
it's been really fun, and just to watch people engage
Hmm.
in what the program does, and stick with it over time, and not
Hmm.
just, I want to earn a reward and then I'll be out of here.
Right.
It's really been a matter of yeah, it seems people have been enjoying it, and some truly amazing things have been created.
It's wild. I mean, some of these guys, I don't know how they come up with half the things they do. I mean, I feel sort of it's funny because I'm like, oh, I'm a guitarist. I'll write a song on the guitar, and like some of these people, they use. I mean, it's really a testament to just the creativity and like willingness to make something cool. Where the only limitation is really the one you put on yourself, and it's like just try something new. And
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many ways you can go with it, and we try to keep it where you might have a more broad topic that's like, traveling the world or like global travel or something, and then a more specific topic like this Billie Eilish James Bond theme song, where you can kind of have, maybe for one round you're feeling more inspired by bigger kind of grandiose things, and maybe there's another person who's like a diehard fan of this more specific topic, and then they can run with that one.
Hmm.
Some people have done both just for fun. We pick winners based on just one topic at a time, but and like you mentioned before, it'd be great to showcase some of the highlights of people who have participated, because
Hmm.
again, some of the stuff is so worth sharing, and just yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah,
So
yeah. And for the like the Stratus segments that I mentioned earlier, that we're planning or are in the idea stages of, in
mhm.
terms of interacting with our artists, nominating yourself for to do an interview, etc. All the information about those things will be posted in the Spark community. So yeah,
Mhm.
just all of you go ahead and join. It's free, no obligations.
It's free.
Yeah,
I will. I'm gonna post a link in the live chat right now in case anyone wants to go check it out on Facebook, just so you have access to it right
yeah,
here.
yeah,
Very good. That should take
for
you there.
sure. Let's do this real quick. I'm gonna switch over to
Sure.
the see if I can see the chat screen. Uh, Someone is saying, where can I find the Spark group? I think probably just a great way is to um, search for Spark, Strandberg Spark on Facebook, and you'll find it. I don't necessarily know the direct link.
Yeah, I think just the official name is Strandberg Official Community Spark on Facebook. It's a
Yep.
public group, um, and yeah, I posted a link in the live chat here. That should take you there. But yeah, Facebook Strandberg Spark should come right up. No problem.
That's awesome. All right, cool. It's been great hanging. I just have to ask you one more thing, and
Mhm.
I'm gonna invite you for a longer description of this. I think later as a guest. You do something called riff-a-fied.
Mhm.
Just
I do.
give us the elevator pitch of riff-a-fied, because it
Riff-a-fied.
makes me laugh every single time.
Well, thank you so much. That really means a lot coming from you, Ola. Yeah, riff-a-fied is a YouTube channel of mine. It's my own creation. Basically, I wanted to. I suffer from a thing that I think a lot of artists suffer from where we get bored really easily, and once something is kind of over, we're done with it, and the new thing is the new thing, and we don't want to even, the old thing is done. And I've always struggled with a way to maintain that. And actually, Spark is a really good example of like new thing every time, keeping the juices flowing, helping me personally as a creative. But I wanted to do something just on my own, just that was also fun and kind of catered to like, me being mostly a goofball, but also liking to write music and keep creative juices flowing. So Riffified is my YouTube channel. Basically, I ruin clips from movies, TV shows, and internet videos with my music, with riffs that are set to the dialogue of the scene. Some of the more popular ones, I did one with Bob Ross, where if you've ever seen Bob Ross paint, a common catchphrase he'll say is he has the brush, and after he dips it in the paint, he'll whack it on the easel back and back and back and forth to like clean it off and knock off the excess paint.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes and he'll say, just beat the devil out of it, and he whacks it on the thing. So I took a compilation of all those videos of him just beating the hell out of this brush, and every hit was like a snare hit, like blast beats, and then I just do like death metal or tech death riffs to it, and people seem to love it. I'm so glad you enjoy it. I do one every Friday. It's been a
Oh.
weekly endeavor. I've done it for past couple months. I've done everything from SpongeBob to Alex Jones, Jon Stewart, John Mulaney. The first one I did was last year. I did a video of John Mulaney, the stand-up comedian. He has a bit on Delta Airlines, and I
Mm-hmm.
riffified
Mm-hmm.
that. And if for those of you who are in the metal world, you're probably familiar with Drusev Stalin, and he was kind of the first one to do this with. There's a video called "Have You Ever Had a Dream?" and it's a little boy struggling to tell the camera about this dream that he had, and Druso set it to some gent progressive metal chugging, and it's just hilarious. And so yeah, it's called Riff-a-fied. Just Google Riff-a-fied on YouTube. It's my YouTube channel. I appreciate you checking it out, Ola, and
Yeah.
I'd love to talk about it more at some future point because
Yeah,
yeah, it's pretty.
I'm just curious how like a brain is wired to to compose
I ask
that
myself the same
stuff.
question
Yeah,
every
so
day.
I think that's I would imagine something that would be of general interest.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So yeah, I think let's I'll switch over to the chat again and see if I can see something. If someone wants to ask you something. Not necessarily. So I think let's just say bye for now, and
Okay.
look forward to chatting with you again soon. And
Yeah,
thank you very
likewise.
much for the participation. And
Of
we'll
course.
get into our next segment, I guess, and answer some questions that were pre-submitted.
All right. Thanks for
But
having me on, Ola.
thanks, Isaac.
Have a good one. Thank you. Have a good one.
Talk soon.
Bye.
All right, very cool. Thanks, Isaac. So I did send out a newsletter last week and told you that this show was coming, and you had an opportunity to email in questions in advance. So I did prepare a few things that I can respond to. Just in the event that the chat wouldn't be as productive as I initially thought it would be, and I guess that's kind of true. I'll try and get back to the chat before we finish up here, and hopefully find a way to do this more interactive. But for now, I'm going to switch over to the questions. We had a question from Jay. My question regarding the trem design. I have an original 7 trem. Find it very hard to get both low action and a decent amount of pull up. It seems if the cavity was cut deeper, this wouldn't be an issue. Was this a specific design decision? Is there a specific reason? And so on. Is it something that would be addressed in the future? And also another question from Jeff. I know you've done videos about this somewhat, but I would really love an in-depth demonstration of the tremolo bridge. And I think I'll probably get back to this topic and do this more in-depth demonstration of the tremolo unit. I've discussed this to some extent before, but I do think it probably makes sense to spend some time on it. But I'm not going to go into detail too much right now. But for the other question regarding the trem setup, I thought I would go through a little bit about kind of the physics behind it and tell you how you can address this, I think. So I'll do a little sketch here. And so basically on your guitar, if this is the neck, here's the fretboard, it's the neck heel, the body will go like that. Inside the body is the tremolo post, where the tremolo pivots. And this has a very complicated feature that no one has ever understood or used, but it's like inside the trem housing is an insert that has 2 notches on it. Actually, it's 4 notches because it's additional notches on the rear. You can flip it over, but let's not go there. And then there's the tuner, sits like that, and then the bridge saddle. And your string will come something like that, and then enter into the tuner. So basically, to do what you're asking for, to get both a decent amount of pullback and low action, there are actually a lot of ways to accomplish this, and they all have advantages or disadvantages. But basically, the pullback, one way to give more pullback is to cut out more material behind the bridge, which would allow you to pull back more, of course. But another way to accomplish the same thing is to you can raise this post and then use another of these notches, and thereby or a combination thereof. And then the thing is, this saddle you can also adjust up and down. So if you raise the base plate, you can lower the saddle, and you have the same relationship between the neck and the bridge, but you have more pullback. The other thing that you can do, and I honestly don't think that it's cheating, but it is to adjust the angle of the neck. So or shim the neck. So I mean, shim the neck. There's tons of best practices for this on YouTube and articles how to do it. And you can certainly experiment with this, just skunkworks with popsicle sticks or whatever, just experiment and see if it does what you want it to do. But basically what will happen if you shim the neck at the rear, you will create an angle of the neck, effectively putting the string up here. So you can raise the bridge higher, giving you more pullback. So I guess your original question is, I mean, is this by design? Well, the combination of all of this is by design. So the intent is to give all of this flexibility, if you want, or if you will. And I would probably say that for the vast majority of people, unless you're like an engineer, this is probably too much flexibility. I designed everything when I actually realized I can take these off when I'm not Skyping. I designed this back in the day when I was building guitars one at a time in my garage to order. I was working with an individual customer for each guitar. So obviously the maximum amount of flexibility was needed to be able to cater to the various needs of people. Now we're doing production guitars, so there's not at all the same need to support this. And sometimes it comes back to bite us, because this flexibility also opens up for making mistakes, of course. But we do what we can. I promise we'll have more setup videos and more in-depth walkthroughs of everything, hopefully in a way that's understandable and that you can use. So yeah, Jay And Jeff, I hope that was somewhat helpful. We take a couple more. Sun Ying asks, seeing as Strandberg is at the forefront of design materials, is there a chance you guys will make black rich light available as a fretboard option? It's 100% sustainable and completely jet black, unlike ebony. It's also maintenance free. And then there's the second question about the cell models, which I'll ignore. But Cesar's asking, hello, my name is Cesar. I was wondering, has making a guitar with sustainable resources ever been considered? And a guitar made with eco-friendly composite materials, rich light or carbon fiber. Are there currently any practices in place at your shop or workshops where Strandberg guitars are built that implement sustainability for wood? Yeah, there's several dimensions, I guess, to this. Certainly, back in the day, again, when I built one guitar at a time, to order, I would personally take great care in where materials were sourced, the grade of them, etc. And sustainability was certainly part of. We didn't talk about it the same way back then as we do now, but it was certainly something that was part of the thinking that went into each individual instrument. But I think moreover, the issue comes when you start doing serial production in some volume, and some of the channels, purchasing channels for wood and other materials at volume, it becomes much more limited. It's just a reality of doing business at scale and just doing it more industrially. So to really try and enforce some of these things and implementing other materials at scale becomes a bigger deal than one would think it is, and it something that seemed like a no-brainer in your garage and during prototyping is like rocket science when you start talking about a factory and you need to deal with the purchasing department at the factory and establish a relationship between this supplier and the purchaser. With that said, it is something that I would really like to do much more actively, and we have done a couple of projects that never launched because it didn't pan out the way we wanted to. So we have had some prototyping projects with a very interesting wood material that didn't pan out. We are currently working to find ebony alternatives. Ebony's been very scarce for many years. It's obviously it's an exotic wood that, as any wood, has limits over time in terms of how accessible and available it is. And furthermore, ebony does have a tendency to be sensitive to humidity or the lack of humidity rather. So despite the steps that we take in production to make sure that it's stable, we still get some instances of where fretboards crack, even when the instrument has been like maintained according to the guidelines that we set up. So it is something that we're working on right now. With that being said, all the woods that we use are FSC certified. So it's not that we don't care at all, but some things are easier than others. And purchasing FSC certified wood is easy. That's commonplace nowadays. As for the other question, using synthetic materials and composites, this is another thing entirely. If you look at my old blog from when I started out, I was certainly considering composite materials. My original neck design with the torsal twist and everything, I won't go into too much detail, but that was intended to be molded in one piece with carbon fiber. Also toyed with all kinds of ideas for synthetics and composites in the body. But what I've come to realize, and this is my opinion, and it's not a matter of right or wrong or anything like that, but I do believe that players are looking for that X factor in a guitar. If you've played enough guitars, you know that two identical looking guitars can feel and play and sound just completely differently. And while that's a nightmare for us as a manufacturer to deal with, all these natural materials, shrinking, swelling, twisting, cracking, I do believe that for you, or the majority of you, you enjoy the hunt for the perfect instrument, and individual variations to some extent are desirable, because and I mean, going back to this whole tone wood debate, etc. I don't think there's such a thing as a good or bad guitar. There are those that mechanically are poor, so they're difficult to play or whatever because of that. But one guitar that one player feels very inspired of or inspired by picking up, another person will hate. And I mean, tone is in the fingers is a common thing that people say. I think the tone is an extension of that. It's picking up an instrument, and that instrument will make you feel. It will put you in a certain state of mind. You hit a chord, the body and the neck will resonate in a way that will feed back into your brain, and you'll play differently as a result. So that tone that is in the fingers is like it's that feedback loop. And to create the perfect instrument that's 100% repeatable with a composite is possible. And it will solve a lot of problems for us as a manufacturer. But I'm kind of banking still on the fact that this hunt for the perfect instrument is enjoyable, and it's something that ultimately that you want. And if I'm wrong, I'll hopefully still make enough good guitars that make it out there. And I'm not against composite materials. I have tons of ideas where composites and natural materials will like live together and give us the best of these worlds. So one day I'll just have more time to be creative, and maybe now, if business slows down enough, I'll have time to innovate and prototype, and that's an opportunity I intend to take in that case. So super long answer to Cesar and Sunying. I think this is the last question I featured. First, will these be posted after the fact? So those who cannot join will be able to watch later? Yes. And then the second question is, why did you choose the neutral frets that you did, particularly the 6-string? Yeah, great question. The thing is this, again, back when I started in my garage, purely as a hobby, it's never intended to be a business, but as people became aware of what I was doing, they got in touch and they said, hello, can I order a guitar? I said yes. We started discussing. I said, these are the parameters. This is what's set. The body shape, the overall like body shape is set. The headless design is set. No discussion. The use of the hardware that I designed, that was set. But basically, beyond that, everything was up for grabs. So the materials, the wood combinations that went into it, the electronics, which parts to buy, how to wire them, etc. That was entirely up for grabs. And then, since part of the concept was the notion of ergonomics and adapting the design of the guitar to the player, and how tall this person was, how long the arms were, the playing style, etc. So we did, when I interacted with people during the specification stage, we would sometimes print out a few different scales on paper, just the layout of the fan frets, and the person on the other end would like tape it to an existing guitar, move the arm in this windshield wiper type motion in the intended playing position, and just find whatever was comfortable. So I basically had like a paid learning journey, because I wasn't experienced. I was not an experienced guitar builder, obviously, and I'm not an experienced player either. I mean, I played when I grew up in various bands, but I didn't own very many guitars. I started building guitars because I couldn't afford buying one. So I hadn't owned many guitars, but all the people that did order guitars, they had owned many guitars. And they told me, these are the properties that I associate with this species of wood, and building a guitar out of it. So I would sometimes challenge them on this, but usually I would just accept what they told me, because this was a hobby. I had a day job. If I failed, I still had food on the table. So I'd build them what they wanted, and then obviously before I shipped it, I'd play it, and I would confirm whatever they had told me that they expected out of it, etc. And I had a paid learning journey in terms of like how to design these things, and some of the more iconic builds then became more and more industrialized. So as my scalability was finite, and that's the problem with success in this kind of field, where I mean you're building guitars. Every guitar you ship means more emails back from the owner of that guitar. And it means growing success means responding to more emails, sending out more quotes, etc., etc. So there's less time to actually build. So I knew early on that I had to scale this some way and have other people help me build. So we had it standardized on some specifications. So the CNC instructions, how to like cut the body shapes and to mill the fret slots in particular, they were standardized. And then within that you could choose different materials and pickups and wiring and so on. And I'd worked early on with Misha Mansour of Periphery for a 7-string guitar. I had worked with Tosin Abasi for an 8-string guitar. And those became like the specifications of choice for those production models. And throughout, the custom orders that came in, they started to converge, and everyone was basically just ordering the same thing. Every once in a while, there was an outlier that wanted something that was like completely out of the ordinary. But most of the time, people were just asking for the same thing. So this individual ergonomic adaptation had to be like I lost the English word because I don't mean sacrificed, but it became it had to be weighed against the practicality of building a lot of guitars. And then so we had the production 7-string and 8-string based on Misha's and Tosin's specifications, but I had originally my first real customer was Chris Letchford of Scaleless Summit, and I'd worked with him, and he's a pretty tall guy, and we had come up with a different relationship of the neutral fret on the 7-string, and it just happened that the drawings for Chris's guitar were the most like up-to-date and complete and accurate drawings that I happened to have on hand as I spoke to the first manufacturer of like overseas manufacturer. So rather than sending the plans that I had for what was our current 7-string guitar at that time, I just sent those drawings over and said, make me a sample with these specifications. And when that sample came back and the scale length was a little bit longer on the 7th string, and well the scale length was a little bit longer, period. We just noticed that man, this guitar sounds better than the previous one. It has properties that we're really looking for. So that became the 7-string specifications of choice, and so it's just one of those things that happen. And actually, so if you look at it, if you know it and you look at the 7-string, you'll see that the neutral fret is further back. It's along the lines of the 9th, 8th, 9th fret, rather than the 6th where I would normally have put it. So it's kind of designed for a taller player, if going all in on the ergonomics side. But it's something that just works, and people seem to enjoy it. So that's the 7 and 8 string. So incredibly long answer to your question, which was about the 6 string. So the relationship of the scale lengths on the 6 string, that was really more a matter of just preference. I mean, there's a vastly larger number of 6-string players, obviously, than the extended range crowd. there's so much more tradition, that there's so much longer history of what a guitar is and what makes sense. So I want to realize the ergonomic benefits, and actually also the tonal benefits of having a slightly shorter scale length on the thinner strings. On the 6-string, but still keep it natural and not freak people out, and that's why the nut is actually neutral, and then there's just this slight lean and the fan on the 6-string. So it's very subtle. Most people that play it for a few minutes say, yeah, I didn't even notice. It just became more comfortable to play. And I have a vague memory of another question. Yeah, I did have another question. I can get into that. Ian Williams says, I have a standard 6-string with the original strings, which I think are the NYXL 10s. I'm used to playing with a lighter gauge. If I swap to a 9, will the balance tension set work as designed, seeing as the bonus is multi-scale neck? So this touches on the matter of string gauges. Is I think in general you get a better tone with the heavier gauge string. So and especially on the lower end, but on the high end as well. And there's just a different snap to the tone with a heavier gauge string on a shorter scale. And these are some of the aspects that set Gibson type instruments with a 24 3/4 inch scale versus a Fender-ish instrument with a 25.5 inch scale. Part of the tonal differences is due to the scale length itself and how the string gauge and tension interacts with the scale length for a particular tuning. So the fan on the 6-string is intended to be ergonomic. It's also intended to allow you to play with a slightly higher string gauge or lower tension on the high end than what you're used to, and this is the intention is that this will sound better and it will be more comfortable to play. But we don't really have anything to add in the space of 6 strings. We've developed custom string sets for the 7 and 8 because there's more difference in the scale lengths, and the benefits of having a higher gauge string on the low end are really big, and we just found that the 7 and 8 string sets that were available off the shelf, they didn't make sense in my mind. So that's why we designed these what we call the optimized tension or the progressive tension string sets that we have on the 7 and 8 string. Also, a lot of people do drop tunings and need a little more just room in terms of the string gauge to allow for these drop tunings on the extended range guitars. With that said, obviously a lot of people drop tune on the 6-string as well, but use whatever strings are comfortable to you. So just getting back to Ian's question, put 9s on there, definitely, not a problem at all. Just read our trem article on the website regarding like how to rebalance the tremolo with the lower tension of the strings, and if it doesn't work for you, go back to 10s. It's easy. Don't fear doing that. trying to think if there was anything else that I had planned. I had planned to keep this to an hour. It's 5:59:39 on my watch, so that seems like absolutely perfect timing to actually wrap this up. And I haven't paid attention to the chat, so that interactive portion was kind of a fail today. I'll figure out a way to do it better for next live stream. I need to find a way to like get this the computer monitor where I can see it and so on, and probably have a helper to manage things. But yeah, we'll interact somehow. we'll get you on the Spark group. We'll invite you as Skype guests, and we'll get you interacting with our artists. Figure out a solution for the chat window. But I think for now, I'm just gonna say huge thanks for tuning in, for spending an hour and getting half hour extra bonus time on with our splash screen before the live stream. But thanks for tuning in, and watch our Facebook page or social media Spark page for announcements about the next live stream. So look forward to seeing you then. Thanks a lot.